apartment in Seoul City, a girl was lying on her bed in a dark and silent room on a cold, moonlit night. The clock struck 2 a.m. when a shadow of fear appeared on her face and deads of sweat formed on her forehead. The moonlight coming through the window reflected on the sweat glistening on her face. In her dream, she saw a little girl crying outside a locked door, knocked on the door again and again, begging someone to open it. She said, "Please open the door." Then the door opened. A man appeared. His face was not visible in her dream. As soon the little girl entered the room, she stumbled over something and fell. Her hand touched the floor, which was stained with her fresh blood. Suddenly, the woman woke up from this terrifying nightmare. Her body was drenched in sweat and her heartbeat grew faster. She got up from the bed, took some medicine, and started walking towards the second room, her apartment, the one that was always locked. As she placed her hand on the doorknob, her phone suddenly rang. Her attention and her step both toward it. When she looked at the screen, it showed an unknown number. She answered the call. A girl's frightened voice was heard clearly from the other side. "Miss Hyun, can you hear me? I got the proof. They are following me. Right now I'm near Seonghwa Medical Store." Without wasting a moment, Hyun reached the address mentioned. When she reached Seonghwa Medical Store, she saw the crowd. As she went closer, she saw the dead body of that same girl. Police were investigating the scene, and the dead body was sent to the hospital for the post-mortem to the forensic team. Seeing all those scenes, Hyun froze in place. The air around her seemed to stop, and the nearby sound began to echo in her ears. The moment a sound rang in Hyun's ear, she was flooded with images of those horrific scenes. The same voice of policeman repeating, "Ma'am, please stay back from the accident site. Let us do our investigation." The next day, at Seoul's Daehan police station, the investigation into the girl's death was underway. Senior Officer Han Dae-sung called everyone into the meeting: the senior superintendent, an assistant inspector, and a sergeant. On the board in the meeting room hung the girl's photograph and footage of the incidents. On the table lay all her details and the recorded video of the scene. Just then, Senior Inspector Seo Ji-won played the accident footage on the screen. The footage showed the girl standing near a medical store, making a call. Then several people approached her. She ran, trying to herself. A truck thundered past, struck her, and kept going at the same speed. The video cut off at that moment. Assistant Inspector Park Ji-hoon watched the footage closely, his gaze sharp. He asked quietly, "Is this murder or simply an accident?" Just then, Senior Inspector Seo Ji-won looked at Inspector Park Ji-hoon and said, "Good question. When we watched this footage carefully, it seems that some men were following that girl. She started running to save, and suddenly speeding, the truck hit her on the road. But if we observe closely, the truck slowed for a moment. The driver looked back as if he was trying to check whether the girl had died or not, and then drove away at full speed. It looks like someone planned this whole thing to make a murder appear like an accident." After a brief pause, the senior turned to Ji-hoon and said firmly, "Assistant Inspector Park Ji-hoon, you'll personally lead this investigation." As the meeting ended, the senior officer, senior inspector, and higher officer left the room. Ji-hoon, sitting on his with one leg crossed over the other, kept tapping a pen rhythmically on the table. After a moment of silence, he looked towards Lee Felix and asked in his calm but firm voice, "Did you find anything about the girl's medical report and personal backgrounds?" Lee Felix glanced at the files before replying, "Sir, the girl's name is Haram. She was orphan. She studied at an engineering university and worked at an SN company. She often visited a hospital to meet another girl, but according to the information we gathered, there was no record of any connection between them. We couldn't find any details about that girl. It's like someone deliberately erased her existence. We don't even have her photo. This information only came from a few nurses at the hospital 2 months ago, and all her photos were deleted from the hospital system." Ji-hoon's eyes narrowed slightly as he asked, "What about the call record and Haram's medical report?" Felix replied in a steady, low tone, "Sir, the person Haram's called before her death. Her name is Miss Hyun, and Haram's medical report will be available tomorrow morning at 11 a.m. Ji-hoon leaned back slightly and said, "Did you find run-on background check on Miss Hyun?" Felix lowered his gaze and answered softly, "No, sir. We haven't gathered any information about her yet." Then hesitantly he added, "Sir, do you really think this was a murder case?" Ji-hoon stayed silent for a few seconds, eyes fixed on the girl's photos pinned to the board. Then he said quietly, "Whether it was murder or not, we'll only know once we investigate Miss Hyun." As those words lingered in the air, Ji-hoon's mind was already tracing the unanswered questions. Who is Hyun? What is her connection to Haram? And why does every clue lead back to her? The soft light from the board flickered across his calm face as he stared at the evidence lying on the table. Next day, Hyun apartment at 10 a.m. Hyun sat calmly on her sofa, legs crossed, her sharp eyes focused on the paper and laptop on the table in front of her. The more she analyzed the information, the calm her expression became, and a faint smile formed on her lips. Suddenly, her phone rang, and the screen showed no caller ID. She answered it. A man's cold, emotionless voice spoke from the other side. "I found the phone. I'll have it delivered to you soon through a delivery man." The call ended. Hyun quietly stood up and walked to the kitchen to prepare breakfast. Daehan police station at 11 a.m. Every officer was busy with their work. Inside the investigation room, Ji-hoon sat on a chair, repeatedly reviewing the same information and the accident video with a calm yet intense expression. Felix knocked and entered the room with a light smile. Ji-hun, what are you thinking? You are staring at the same video and the same information again and again. If you keep staring this intensely, these details will run away out of fear. Please stop glaring at it. Ji-hun looked at him and replied in a quiet, serious tone, because all of this feel incomplete, fake. It feel like something is being hidden. This is not just murder. Hearing that, Felix's smile slowly faded. A strange calm expression took over his face. Did she tell him why? Inspector Sangwoo walked into the investigation room with quick, firm step, looking directly at Park Ji-hun. He said, "Sir, we caught all 4 men who were following Harem." Ji-hun asked, "Did you find out everything about him?" Sangwoo answered in a calm, serious voice, "Sir, we found out that all 4 of them work for a man named Kim Gunwoo. He deal in drugs and loan sharking. First, he lend money to people who need it, and he sent his man to collect double the amount. Because of drugs and assault cases, he served 4 years in prison. But there is no record of murder in his life. The matter ends there." Ji-hun gets up from his chair and start walking out of the investigation room. Lee, Felix, and Sangwoo follow behind him. That he then reaches the 4 men, Won-Hoo, Jong-yin, Saewon, and Chanwoo. Looking at them, Ji-hun asks, "What were you doing that night? Or what exactly were you trying to do?" "We were just following that girl." Suddenly Ji-hun shouts angrily, "Following her? Or planning to kill her?" Chanwoo quickly stammers, "And no, we didn't to kill her. She crashed into the truck herself. She died on her own. We just..." Ji-hun grabs him by the collar with both hand and shout, "Just what? You saw her alone and wanted to take advantage of it." Then he orders Sangwoo, "Put all 4 of them in jail. File charges, drugs, loan sharking, assault, everything." Sangwoo tries to say, "But sir, we don't..." Ji-hun cut him off. "You want strong evidence? You'll get it. For now, lock them up for 24 hours under investigative custody." At that moment, Felix's phone start ringing. He pick up the call, talk for a moment, and hangs up. Ji-hun asks, "What happened? Who was it?" Felix replies, "It was the hospital call. They said they're doing the medical checkup again. We'll get the report by evening." Ji-hun starts walking out of the public station. "Come with me," he says. Felix, who was following him, run to catch up and places his hand on Ji-hun's shoulder. "Where are you going? Don't tell you're thinking about going on a date again. Don't even try. Remember what last time? You took that girl to a restaurant and she rejected you because you didn't smile even once. Instead, you were telling her how unhealthy the food was. You listed the disadvantage of every dish. She threw water on your face and left, and that how you've been rejected 7 times in new ways each time. What the use of having such a good face and job him?" And soon as Ji-hun reaches the police car, he removed Felix's hand from his shoulder, opened the door, and pushed him inside. Then Ji-hun says, "Stop using that useless brain of yours. We're going to Miss Hyun apartment, and yes, you're driving today." Both of them hurried towards Hyun apartment. Inside, Hyun was setting 2 plates on the dining table when the doorbell rang. She opened the door and now 2 police officers were standing there. Ji-hun walked straight into the apartment without waiting and began observing everything around him. His eyes soon landed on the 2 plates placed on the dining table. Ji-hun said with a slight sarcastic tone, "Look like you already know we were coming. That's why you've set 2 plates for us." He kept staring at her face, he expecting this question to make her uneasy. But Hyun's expression was calm without a trace of fear or heart. A hesitation, she asked in steady voice, "Why have you come here?" Ji-hun replied, "For questioning regarding a murder case." Ji-hun's voice turned cold. "You'll know after we investigate you. I'm leading the case of the girl who called you that night." Hyun said, "I am not criminal who would run away." Ji-hun looked at her sharply. "That will only be confirmed after your question. You need to come with us to the police station." Without any reluctance, Hyun walked out with Felix and Ji-hun. While they were on their way, Felix said, "Actually, Miss Hyun is right. There was no need for us to come personally. She is not a criminal." Ji-hun glared at him. "Since when did you become the police? Or has your brain stopped working?" Then in a serious tone he added, "In this case, the more we try to solve it, the more complicated it gets. We don't have any solid proof yet. The medical report has not arrived, and we still don't have the full accident footage, their record of what happened after the truck hit her. Someone broke the camera." Inside the police station, Felix, Ji-hun, and Hyun were present. Ji-hun looked toward Felix and asked, "Did you prepare the information I asked you to collect?" Felix, in his usual calm and low voice, replied, "Yes, sir. Everything is ready. And I asked Sangwoo to place all the documents in the investigation room." Ji-hun nodded slightly and said, "Take Miss Hyun to the investigation room. I'll be there soon." Felix gestured politely. "Miss Hyun, please follow me." Hyun walked behind him. Opening the investigation room door, Felix said, "Miss Hyun, please go inside and sit on that chair. Sir Park Ji-hun will begin your investigation shortly." Hyun silently nodded. Felix stepped out and closed the door, then walked straight to Sangwoo. "Keep an eye on Miss Hyun," he said. "I'm heading to the surveillance control room." Surveillance control room. In the control room, Ji-hun stood before a large monitor, zooming in on Hyun's every movement, studying her expressions closely. Suddenly, knock knock knock, Felix entered. Ji-hun glanced at him for a moment, then returned his eyes to the screen. Felix sighed irritably. "You act like I'm not even here." Then added, "When will you start Miss Hyun's investigation?" He moved next to Ji-hun and looked at the monitor. "What are you looking at? Everything seems normal to me." Without taking his eyes off the screen, Ji-hun replied, "Yes, everything looks normal. Or maybe, someone's trying very hard to make it look normal. We'll know as we get closer to the truth." investigation room. Hyun sat cross-legged on the chair. In front of her was a table, a chair, and a large board on the wall filled with Harem's accident footage and details. She was studying everything carefully. The door opened. Ji-hun entered, closed it behind him, and sat opposite her. His eyes were fixed on her face, searching for fear, hesitation, or hidden emotions. Feeling his intense gaze, Hyun spoke softly. You took longer than expected. I was told to wait only 10 minutes. Ji-hun looked away for a second and said, Sorry, Miss Hyun. We have multiple cases to handle. Then with a serious tone, he asked, Can you tell me how you know Miss Harem? Hyun paused, took a breath, and replied, I'm a psychiatrist at Daemyeong University Medical Center. I met Harem 6 months ago at the hospital. She was my patient. Ji-hun looked down at the paper in his hand. Hyun's personnel file, containing all her details. Ji-hun's eyes were still on the papers he held. Hyun's CV file. Ji-hun leaned forward slightly and asked, Miss Hyun, do you know the girl Harem used to visit? The patient from your hospital. The one who was suddenly transferred to another facility? We found no information about her, not even a single piece of footage. Hyun replied in a calm, slightly sarcastic tone. Investigating is your job, not mine. I was Harem's doctor, that's all. She had psychological issues and I was treating her. Other than that, I know nothing. Ji-hun continued. Then why did Harem call you that night? What did she tell you? Without hesitation, Hyun answered in a steady, confident voice. She was about to tell me about some evidence, but before she could say anything, the call dropped. Her answer was so firm that Ji-hun couldn't find a single trace of doubt. Her face remained perfectly calm. Ji-hun asked, Doesn't it seem strange to you that she called only you? Hyun said, No, maybe she thought I could help her. Ji-hun stood up. Alright, thank you, Miss Hyun, for cooperating with the investigation. Hyun also rose and said softly, It's okay, Mr. Ji-hun. If you have any more questions, you can ask anytime. She exited the room and closed the door behind her. Inside, Felix stood in front of Ji-hun and said, We had many questions, and only Miss Hyun could answer them. She seems to be the only suspect in this case. Ji-hun replied in a serious tone, No, we can't question her anymore for now. The way she responds, it feels like she's either someone's pawn in this case, or she knows exactly how to play this game, exactly when to make her moves. After a short silence, Ji-hun added, Did you find out who Harem called 15 minutes before she called Miss Hyun? Felix nodded. Yes, the number belongs to an old lady who takes care of children at an orphanage. When we asked her, she only said that Harem called to check on her health. Ji-hun asked, And the medical report? Felix answered, Yes, it has arrived, but we need to go to the hospital for it. As Hyun stepped out of the police station, her phone started ringing. When she answered it, a trembling voice came from the other side. Someone gives their address. Someone begging for help. Hospital. Ji-hun and Felix were seated inside Dr. Haesung's cabin. Ji-hun asked directly, Doctor, what did Harem's report reveal? Dr. Haesung looked at him and said, Harem was injured by the truck. Yes, but someone also struck her head with a solid object. That it seems she was still alive after the truck hit her, and someone finished her off afterwards. Hearing this, Ji-hun stood up. Alright, if you find anything else, inform us immediately. Ji-hun and Felix stepped out of the cabin. Walking beside him, Felix said, Until now, we thought Harem died because of the truck, but this clearly means someone murdered her, and it feels like a very powerful person is behind this. Ji-hun replied in a calm, serious voice, Keep an eye on Miss Hyun, and he hesitated for a moment before adding, Investigate SN Company properly. Felix stopped and stared at him with wide, shocked eyes. Are you stupid? We already investigated them. We found nothing. If we try again, you'll get yourself into serious trouble. Ji-hun kept walking, but his mind was swirling with questions. Who killed Harem? What is Miss Hyun hiding? Is she just a pawn? Or is she manipulating this entire case? And who is truly behind this murder? And with this, episode 1 of Death Hidden in the Wing comes to an end. Episode 2 will be released on Sunday. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel.